What was your biggest fear when you were 8 years old? Most 8-year-olds are afraid of being alone, afraid of strangers, the dark, or even the monsters under their bed. However, my biggest fear as an 8-year-old was a monster that was lying right on top of my bed, eating me alive as it never failed to leave me alone. My biggest fear as an 8-year-old was my fat body that stuck out like a sore thumb between all my peers. I was a typical chubby, short kid wearing pink Barbie glasses. The word fat never really crossed my mind before, or was an issue for me. Maybe I didn't even know what it meant, until the boys in my class started constantly making fun of me and calling me fat, ugly, obese, and all these hateful comments. Then a year after, my regular day was coming back from school and crying. So I began thinking that I don't want to be like this anymore. I don't want to be labeled as the fat kid. So I decided that I need to lose weight. As I reached grade 7, I began being the type who hates going outside. People's gazes felt like there were needles piercing through my body, judging every inch of it. And whenever I went outside, it would take me hours to pick clothes which made me look a little less fat. I'd avoid looking at my reflection in the mirror because all I could see was an ogre. I started going on a diet, and I lost 11 kilograms in 2 months. And this was the first time I felt proud of myself. But then the thought of living my life like this haunted me down, and I began losing motivation, and eventually gained back what I had lost. And the cycle continued. I tried everything you can imagine. I started water fasting. You go on for days with no food. And I was able to go on for 3 consecutive days with no food. My friends and classmates would constantly tell me that I'd lost so much weight, it became addictive. But then I started developing the fear of gaining weight. Shame took over me as I imagined how embarrassed I'd be if someone took notice to me gaining back the weight I had lost. Soon after, I began forcing myself to throw up after eating, which is an eating disorder known as bulimia. It started with twice a week. Then I'd do it more frequently, twice a day. I couldn't control myself. Each time I ate, I'd feel really guilty, and the urge of forcing myself to throw up would lead its way. I'd cry afterwards and ask myself, why am I like this? Then one day I had an eye-opening conversation with one of my teachers. I won't go into specifics, but the conversation left me questioning myself. What is it that I value the most in life? What is it that I'm dedicating myself to? And why is it that even though I was constantly chasing what I would define as my happiness, I was only falling deeper into my misery? So the first step I took was fixing my relationship with God. And as I did that, I stopped seeing food as the villain. And this was the first step into overcoming my addictive, dysmorphic body image. Well, what is body image? Body image is one's perception of their body and the thoughts and feelings the person experiences as a result of this perception. There are 4 important aspects of body image. Number 1, perceptual body image, which is the way you see yourself. Some people see themselves as fat, while actually being the normal range. Anorexic people have a distorted way of viewing their body, so they see themselves as overweight, when in fact, they are severely underweight. So the way you see yourself is called perceptual body image. Number 2, affective body image, which is the way you feel about the way you look, how dissatisfied or satisfied you are in relation to your appearance, shape, size is your affective body image. Number 3, cognitive body image, which are the thoughts and beliefs you have in relation to the way you look. Some people believe that if they lose weight, they'd look better. A man might believe that if he gains muscles and 6-packs, he'd feel better about himself. So the thoughts and beliefs you have in relation to the way you look is your cognitive body image. Number 4, behavioral body image, which are the behaviors you do in relation to the way you look. Some isolate or starve themselves. Others choose to have a balanced diet. So all these behaviors depend on how a person perceives themselves. It's shocking that over 80% of 10-year-olds are afraid of being fat. This certain image is the image that has been placed for us mainly through the media, which sets unrealistic standards that should be met. If you all notice, the celebrities we see have a very similar body type. However, body image has always been such a fluctuating matter. So, for example, people used to sculpt their skulls in order for it to reach a specific shape which they deemed as the beauty standard. In the past, removing your eyelashes and eyebrows was the beauty standard, when in fact, today we buy the products that help make them appear fuller. Way back in Italy, the ideal woman was described as having full hips and a rounded stomach, which would oppose what is seen as idealistic today. So, the perfect body never actually existed. They are all standards of the time that we are mindlessly chasing. Despite all these ideals, it's very hard to reach the point where you accept and love your body. I struggled with a negative body image for 7 years, and each time I start gaining confidence and accepting myself, someone mocks me and destroys everything I had built. But you need to understand that this is an issue. It's a huge issue. Many people think that it's not important to love ourselves. I myself used to think this way until it had become an unbearable burden. The way you see yourself affects your mental health, your physical health, how you interact with people. A survey data found that 36% of girls and 24% of boys report avoiding taking part in activities such as physical education due to worries about their appearance. Having a negative body image often leads to low self-esteem, depression, unhealthy self-talk, and in some cases leads to eating disorders. The question is, how was I able to reach the point of self-acceptance and a positive body image? Simply put, it doesn't happen overnight. I followed 5 life-changing steps. Step 1, self-care. This is one of the steps I love the most. It's simple, fun, and does its wonders. You could try doing simple stuff such as going on a walk, reading a book, trying a new style or look, or even sleeping in. You need to understand that you deserve to be taken care of by yourself. Step 2, positive affirmation. Very famous, yet very effective. You probably heard of the saying before, and it resonates more than you'd like to admit. You are your own worst critic. I always used to tell myself that I'm ugly, fat, unworthy, until this is how I started seeing myself. According to WebMD, self-talk affects your perspective. It can either boost you up or take you down. So I thought, why don't I start saying something positive to myself every day? And as I did that, the words I used to tell myself started reflecting upon me. Step 3, gratitude list. We all spend so much time on our phones, so I'd like you to take out your notes and ask yourself, what are 3 positive qualities I possess? What are the skills and talents I acquire? We humans tend to focus on what we don't have rather than what we have. So making a gratitude list can help you learn to appreciate and love yourself. Step 4, stop the comparisons. How many of you have compared yourself to someone before? Just raise your hand. The majority of us have compared ourselves to someone before, at least once or twice. If you took the strength of others and compared them to your weaknesses, how do you think this would size up? And do you think this would make you feel happy? It's a surefire recipe for a drop in self-confidence and for unhappiness. So start seeing your true value. Step 5, be conscious of the media you consume. Whether we like to admit it or not, social media is shaping our concept of beauty. We are constantly consuming images posted online. A study shows that 88% of women and 64% of men report consuming images posted online, with over half of them emphasizing that the comparison is unfavorable. We need to understand that the majority of images posted online are unrealistic and present the minority of the population. Finally, I am now in a good place. I am living a shame-free life, No longer striving for perfection, no longer living in fear of gaining weight, no longer obsessed with my body. The monster that has long lived with me has finally died. Love and embrace your imperfect self. Live a shame-free life. Live with a vision beyond the mirror. And finally, watch your life positively grow as you leave your pursuit of perfection and live as the imperfect you, because this is the real ideal beauty. Thank you.